Hey everybody, Lawrence the Marketing Guy here with Dave, and we're going to talk about Way of the Fighter. We have published a PDF of how to get up and running. It's kind of a quick start guide, how to play Way of the Fighter. So we just want to go through that with you to show you how much fun and how quick and easy you can get set up and battling to travel the Way of the Fighter with this great new game. You ready? Cool. All right, so I've got my own copies of Super and Turbo because I wanted both. What's the first thing I have to do to get started playing Way of the Fighter?
Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you're going to pick one of the fighters that's available to you.
I know which character I want. I want Albertus because he looks like me with all the rippling muscles.
Okay. All right, so so the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your fighter's standee, and you're also going to take the fighter's deck of cards. And those are going to be the two things you need to get started with Way of the Fighter.
And every single fighter comes with a pre-constructed
Absolutely, yeah,
deck of cards.
that's correct. Every fighter, when you first open the game, will have a pre-constructed deck of cards. When you go to the back of the rulebook, you can also see how that deck was made, so that if you break it down, you start customizing, you get into the game, but you want to kind of teach someone else the game and you don't want to give them a complicated deck, you can always go back to the original deck that was with the game.
Cool. So I've got my standee, I've got my character, and I've got my deck. What do we do next?
All right, so the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to pick a color from either red or blue if you have Super, or green or orange if you have Turbo. And you're going to take the tokens that are the blast tokens and the position tokens matching that color. You're going to take 6 power dice matching that color. You're going to take 12 core dice. And each player is going to do this. This is how they're going to have their components set up.
So with Super, you'll have the blue power dice, you'll still have white core dice, and you'll have blue tokens.
Correct.
So I've got everything I need. I got my character, I got my deck, I got my dice, I got my tokens.
Yep.
How do we set the board up?
All right.
Okay, Dave, we got the board. We've got the timer token in its spot on the first timer. We've got our standees where they're supposed to be.
Yep.
What do I do next?
All right, so first what you're going to do, and this is going to be for each player, you're going to take one of each of the core dice that you have. These are the white dice, and you're going to place it on the lightened spaces of the life pool. The life pool is this pool running along, noted by the little heart on the end of it. So then you're going to take the 6 power dice that you have, and you're going to put them on the darkened spaces of your life pool.
Now, do the numbers on the dice showing make any, does it matter what the numbers are?
No, numbers are totally okay. They don't matter. The only time that your numbers are going to matter is after you've rolled your dice.
That makes sense.
And then you're going to take the last 6 core dice and put them in your power pool, your burnout pool.
Now, I've noticed we've got our life pool, and that's how we track our health.
Yep.
Then we've got our burnout pool where we keep our reserve energy waiting to be energized.
That's correct.
What are these other tool pools?
All right, so in the energy pool is going to be the dice that you know you're going to be getting in the next turn or the upcoming turn. The dice in your active pool are going to be the dice that are available for you to use when you're rolling for your actions and determining your speed of your attacks.
Okay.
It's a key feature within the game. The resource management is definitely around the dice. You're going to be bluffing with your dice, you're going to be secretly picking out your dice, and you're going to be trying to manage having more dice than your opponent, or at the flip side of it, getting them to waste the dice so that you have dice advantage.
Which is a really cool part about Way of the Fighter. It's not just cards, there's dice involved, and you're going to have a little bit of luck involved with playing this game.
Yes, the dice are definitely going to be the key feature as far as determining how much damage you do with certain special attacks. They're going to be determining how fast your attacks are. So yeah, they add that extra level to your cards.
Cool. So are we all set up and ready to play?
Now we are all set up and ready to play, so let's move to the next step, which is determining initiative and building our hands.
Sounds great. So we've got the board all set up. We've got our character standees. We've got the dice where they're supposed to be. Now, how do we start playing? How do I travel the Way of the Fighter?
Okay, so before we start with determining the initiative, which will be our next step, at this point both fighters will have gone through their deck and picked out 4 cards from their deck to put into an opening hand. Then they're going to also have taken their block card. Every character has a unique block card, and that's going to go into their hand. So Lawrence and I have already kind of picked our hands just to save some time, and I did our block, so we have our starting hand of 5 cards.
Yes, sir.
You take 3 dice from your burnout pool. You're going to roll them. I got 3 2s, so I rolled a 6.
I rolled a 7.
Okay, so the person who rolled the highest is going to get to take the initiative. All right, and since you took the initiative, what the initiative card is going to do, it can be used in a lot of tactical ways, but for now, since we're just beginning the game, the only thing that's important is it's going to break priority ties, so if we're ever tied for anything, it will go to you. And it'll also determine who goes first in each step. So since you have the initiative, as we roll through the turn, you're always going to get the first option.
Cool.
All right, you are ready to play.
Cool. We're all ready to go. Oh, just so you all know, we include handy reference cards inside the game for you. And of course, we're going to have multiple files. We've got tactics and combo articles. So we're here for you if you need help traveling the way of the fighter.
So then what you do is you take those 3 dice that you rolled and you're going to put them back in your burnout pool. And the person who starts with the initiative will slide 1 die over to their energy pool. And the person that's not starting with the initiative will get 2 dice in their energy pool to start.
Because I have an advantage with the initiative, so I only get 1 dice to my energy pool.
Correct.
That makes sense.
All right, and now we are ready to actually play and break through the game.
All right, let's do it.
All right, but before we get started with running through the details of a turn, let's just see what Way of the Fighter is, like an overview of it. At its core, Way of the Fighter is going to run through managing your resources, so your dice and drawing cards in your hand. You're going to be moving your characters around the board and repositioning them. Then you're going to play your cards face down. Each player will play a card face down. You'll take some dice, you'll roll them, you'll reveal those cards that you played, add the dice to them, and then you resolve whichever action is highest. If a player takes damage, their action gets canceled. Then at that point, you'll do a cleanup phase, and that's pretty much the game.
Sounds pretty simple.
All right, so let's break it down into its individual components, its different turns.
So first we have our ready phase.
Correct. So in the ready phase, beginning with the person that has the initiative, you're going to draw a card, or you also have the option of discarding 3 to draw 3 if you don't like what's in your hand.
Oh, I like what I have in my hand.
Considering you built your hand, I hope so. All right, so, and I'll do the same. I'll just draw 1 card. All right, so once you've drawn cards, then the first thing you're going to do is, and you can both take this action at the same time when you don't have any power dice in either of your burnout pools. Because the next step is to slide 2 core dice to your energy pool.
And we both get that during the ready phase.
Correct. And the reason I bring up the power dice is because as you take damage, your dice are going to be moved into your burnout pool. And you'll eventually have the option of moving either 1 power die over or 2 core dice over. At the beginning of the game, you can just basically slide 2 dice over, and then the next step is sliding all the dice in your energy pool to your active pool.
So that is my resources to help my cards be stronger.
Correct.
Against my opponent.
Yep. So I have 4 and you have 3, and now that is the end of the ready phase. Simple enough.
So now we move on to the challenge phase.
Correct. And since you also have the initiative here, you get to determine how you want to move your fighter. So you can either kneel, shift, or jump. Or, sorry, it's called leaping. So
Leaping, yes.
What would you like to do?
I'm going to shift.
Okay.
So I'm going to shift a little closer to you because I'm a big brute of a guy. I want to intimidate you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you pretty much got the size advantage on my little fighter. Okay, so you've shifted. When you shift, you can either stay in the same space, you can move 1 space forward, 1 space back, but in addition to that, you also get to draw a card. So go ahead and draw a card.
Ooh, okay.
All right, I'm going to prepare for my oncoming attack by kneeling. When you kneel, you're going to take your position token that shows the kneel icon, and you're going to put it over the standing space over on the side of the board. Essentially, that is showing you that I am now in a crouching position for all of your attacks.
And some of my attacks won't hit you if you're crouching.
Correct. You'll punch right over my head.
Which might happen anyway.
All right, so that is essentially the positioning of your fighters. That is known as taking commands.
Okay. And our next step?
All right, so next, we can both play this at the same time because we're going to take one of the cards from our hand, and we're going to put it face down. Now, normally, I should say, I would obviously be sitting on that side of the board.
Right.
But then you're just going to be staring at the back of my head, so that's not...
Yeah, that wouldn't make very good video.
All right, so
Did you see that video? You watch Dave's head all the time.
All right, so we both played our card face down. I don't know what you've played. You don't know what I've played. So now what we do is we take all the dice in our active pool, and we secretly determine how many dice are we going to roll with the action that we've played face down. You can take between 1 to 4. You can't take 0, so you at least have to roll 1 die.
Right.
Normally in this step, I am going to put my hand here on that side of the board, and that shows which dice I'm not rolling. All right.
Oh dear.
So Lawrence is rolling 2 dice, and I'm rolling 3 dice. And we just roll them. All right. So I rolled a total of 6, and you rolled a total of 5. It's at this point, anytime I should go over the initiative, the little tactical side of it. At this point, the initiative can be used after rolling dice to reposition your fighter, so you can get out of being in your standing position and go to either jumping or crouching. You can move 1 space forward, 1 space back to try and get me to anticipate like missing. Or you can add 2 to the speed of the face down action that you have.
Or I can choose not to use the initiative at all this
Absolutely,
turn.
yeah.
Save it till next turn.
Yep, exactly. Because once it's used, it's going to go back to the other player at the end of the turn. All right, so what do you want to do?
Well, I think I remember the number on that. I see that you've rolled a higher number, so in order to try to beat you, I'm going to turn this sideways to show that I've used it and add 2 to my...
All right. All right, so now that we're done with that step, we go on to the reveal step. I reveal a light kick.
And I reveal uppercut.
And you reveal uppercut. All right, so in this case, what we would do is we add the numbers of the dice. I usually just put them on the card. You add it to the priority value at the top of the card. We're going to have a display of the card on the screen that shows each of the components of the card. So let's go ahead and break down a card. First, at the top of the card in the top left is going to be your priority value. Next, you'll find the name of the attack, or the action, I should say. And then to the left of that, what's known as its primary effect. The different types of actions in this game each have a different kind of primary effect. So strikes, normally, it's going to be damage. Right. Movement is obviously going to move you somewhere. Throwing blast is going to put blast tokens on the board. We'll get to that in a bit. The next thing you're going to see is the text block. Now, light kick is a pretty basic attack, so its text block is blank. That text block is also known as the secondary effect. And then finally, at the bottom of the action is going to be your grids. This is going to show you essentially how far your attack reaches. So first thing you want to do, you're going to look at your grid and you're going to say, okay, what position am I in? If you're in crouching, you're going to use the leftmost grid. If you're standing, you're going to use the middle grid. And if you're jumping, you're going to use the far right grid. The little black box in each of the grids is letting you know that it can be used in that position. Cards like the mode cards, they don't hit, they don't do anything. So sometimes a mode card can only be used when jumping or leaping, I should say, or crouching or standing. So that's how the hit grid is going to be used. So now that we have established we both can use our actions, because you standing up, it shows a black box in your your center grid, and mine has a black box in my crouching grid. It lets us know that our actions don't cancel at this point.
Okay. So my priority is 2 added to the 4, so that gives me 6. Then I have 5 here, so that gives me a total of 11.
Correct. Yeah, you are getting 2 from the initiative on
right.
that card. All right, so you have a total of 11, and I have a total of 11.
Oh no!
However, Jun's character card says, and all character cards have a special effect. For example, yours says,
if I am hit, I get to energize one of my dice.
Correct. So punching Albertus is actually giving dice quicker to him for the follow-up turns.
You're just making him mad.
Exactly. So Jun's is going to be a priority bonus of 1 on strike actions that she plays. So I played a strike action as noted by the red effect of the card and the fact that it has a punching icon on it. And so that's going to bring my priority value up to 12.
Ugh.
So my action is actually going to take place before yours. I look at my grid and I say, okay, in the crouching position, can I hit a person who is standing 2 spaces away? Yes, I can.
Yes, you can.
So now we go ahead and we resolve the action. Starting with the primary action, unless the secondary has a different timing effect. Some of them will say start on them, and that means you should apply that effect before doing the primary. So that might move you or change your position, one of those things. Mine doesn't do that, so you just take 1 damage as noted by the primary effects damage icon plus the 1.
And damage is done to my life pool.
Correct.
So I take the dice from there, and it goes to my
Energy pool.
energy pool.
Yep.
Because that's now going to be part of my resource.
Correct.
When you take a hit,
Yeah. So,
it adds to your resources.
you want to be careful with that. There's definitely comboing and things like this and moves that do way more than 1 damage. For example, if your uppercut had hit, it would have done 2 damage. You are giving your opponent dice for them to use immediately on you the following turn.
And since I was hit because of Albertus' special ability, I get to energize 1
That
dice.
is correct. Now, when you took damage, the first thing you did is you had to cancel your action. So when you cancel an action, you're going to take the dice on that action, you're going to move them to your burnout pool.
Because you burned out the energy.
Yep. And then you're going to discard the action. So that is pretty much the challenge phase. If I wished, I could have played extra strike cards to continue a combo string, but unfortunately, due to being 2 spaces away from you, I could only hit you with a light kick. All right.
Which all it did was make me mad.
Yes. All right, so now it goes to the recovery phase. So the recovery phase is going to begin with looking to see if the initiative was used, and if it was,
off it goes to your opponent.
Correct. And it'll come back to them in an unused state so that they can use it in a following turn.
Sure.
The next thing you're going to do is you'll look at any cards that are currently in play, and you're going to burn out the dice on them to your burnout pool.
So I would have burnt out those. Discard that.
And you discard them. So it's just kind of like a cleanup phase. The recovery phase is cleaning up. The next thing you're going to do is you'll check your hand of cards. And if you have 7 or more cards, you have to discard down to 7 cards.
Okay.
I still only have 5 cards in my hand, so
I have 6.
And that marks the end of the turn. So we move the turn counter to space number 2 on the turn track. And that's pretty much a turn right there.
That's easy.
Yeah.
That's easy.
Albertus is Greek, but that's...
Yeah, well, I can't do a Greek accent, so I'll do Scottish because that's who I am.
All right.
Okay, so let's do another turn real quick.
Okay, so we'll do another turn. I have the initiative this time, so I'm going to be making all the different choices this turn.
Right.
So once again, we're going to draw a card, or discard 3 and draw 3 if we wanted. And then we're going to move our dice over. So I'm going to move 2 dice into my energy pool, and you will slide 2 dice to your energy pool. Then we take all the dice and we move them into our active pool.
So now, because I got hit, I actually have a little bit of an advantage in my active pool because I've got a power die in there that actually goes higher than my core dice because it can go up to 4.
Correct. Yeah, so I should note that. The dice, the numbers on the dice, now that we've rolled these and we have a power die over here, it's pretty simple. The core dice is going to have 2 1s on it, 2 2s on it, and 2 3s on it. In some games, that's known as a D3. The power die is going to have 2 2s, 2 3s, and 2 4s. So you can use that to kind of guarantee whether you are able to combo, or you can use that towards smaller priorities to add a little bit more than what they normally have. So yeah, now we're in the challenge phase. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to leap this time. And I'm going to leap 1 space towards you. And when you leap, you can go up to 2 spaces, either backwards or forwards. And unlike when you kneel where you get an energy die, or when you shift and you get to draw a card, all leaping does is it puts you in the jumping position, and it's pretty much used primarily to either retreat back 2 spaces or try and advance on your opponent. For 2 spaces.
So I, for my command, will shift, but when you shift, you can actually stay in the same spot, can't you?
Yep. Yeah, you can totally
So
do
I'm
that.
shifting just so I can draw another card, because I don't want to move any farther away from her. I'm going to smack her out of the air.
Okay.
Maybe.
Well, you did play an uppercut last time, so
I did.
that is a key card to have. Okay, so the first thing we do now is we move over into playing a card face down. I've got my card placed face down.
I've got my card placed face down.
Okay, and we take all the dice in our active pool. We secretly pick them. Now, I know that you have power dice and everything in there, so let's see what I roll. Surprise, surprise. I'm going to roll 3 dice, and you're roll 4 dice. All right.
I'm leaving my power die there because I may want that later.
Oh, yeah. If you don't have a reason to roll the power die, then you shouldn't roll the power die.
There we go. I rolled a total of 8.
Right. I rolled a total of 7. All right. So since I have the initiative, and you might have an advantage on me with the number being higher, I'm going to actually try and make you miss. So I'm going to move 1 space back. Now, I am still in the air. I just use the initiative to move 1 space back. You can double jump and stuff like that in fighting games. So that's kind of what this is representing. So I move 1 space back, and then we are going to reveal our cards because that's the next step.
I'm actually blocking because I expected you to come at me with some kind of flying kick.
Yeah, I have a lot of those. So I played a blast and you played your block. So the way a blast works, well, let's look and see who had a faster attack. You have a total of 7. You have a total of 8 plus the 6.
So that gives me 14.
So you're at 14, and I rolled 7 plus 6, so I'm at 13. And I didn't use the initiative, and it's not a strike, so your block is going to actually get pulled up first.
But you have a priority bonus, so now we're tied.
Oh, no, I don't get... So that priority bonus only applies to strike cards. And as noted by the purple on my card, this is a blast card.
Okay, so you're sending an energy blast at me.
Correct. So essentially what's going to happen is your action is going to resolve first. So when you look at a block action, the first thing you're going to always notice is it says reveal energize 1. So as soon as we revealed these cards, you got an additional dice. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to look at their primary effect. Your primary effect is R plus 1. So if you look at the key on your reference card, R is the number of dice you rolled with the action. You rolled 4 dice with this action, so 4 plus 1, 5. That means the first hit you take this turn, you're going to reduce the damage by 5.
Wow.
All right. So let's see what I did. All right. So because this is now resolved, and you didn't do damage to me, so my action still gets to resolve.
Right.
So I'm going to go ahead and resolve my blast. So the first thing I do is I look at the blast's primary effect. Since the text box is blank, that's all I need to worry about. Obviously, there's a black box in the jumping grid on my card, so that means that I can use this action while I'm jumping. If you note on this card, the crouching grid does not have a black box, so I cannot throw an aerial blast while crouching. Kind of breaks the laws of physics if you do.
Not realistic.
Yeah, like the double jumping.
Yeah, exactly.
So first thing you do is you're going to look at your primary effect, and it's going to tell you how much damage your blast will do if it hits. So let's figure out, how does a blast work? Well, the next thing underneath your primary effect of damage, it shows the high blast value, which is noted by a fireball. So when you play a blast, it's either going to place a low blast, which is noted by a ground kind of wave, or a high blast, which looks like a fireball. My card says that I'm going to play a fireball. So I put a high blast in my character's space. The next value after it is telling me how many spaces it moves. So since the high blast says 3, it's going to move 3 spaces. 1, 2, and it would go here, but since it lands here, we got to check to see if it hits you.
Right.
So a high blast will hit a person who is standing or jumping. A low blast will hit someone who's crouching or standing. You are standing, so you're going to get hit by either a high or a low blast.
Right.
Now, when you block, you have to look and see, well, does your block things from above you or below you? Since yours blocks blasts that are above you, you'll be able to block my blast when it hits you. So since it entered your space, the first thing we do is it says, yes, it hits. It does 1 damage as noted by the primary effect on the card. But since your block goes off, your block prevents up to 5 damage from the first hit. So you reduce my damage to 0. At that point, the token gets discarded. And as soon as that happens, then your block is going to also lose one of the dice to its burnout pool. So it's not how much damage you took, it's every instance of damage you took. So let's say I've hit you now and I wanted to play a combo and go off of this and start throwing more blasts and more hits into you.
I can still protect myself.
Absolutely. So the next time something would hit you, you would reduce it by 4 damage because there's 3 dice on there and your thing it reduces damage by R plus 1.
Easy enough?
Easy. All right. So now if I get through to that, if let's say I somehow can do a 5 damage attack.
Right.
And you can only prevent 4, your block will get canceled, all the dice on it will be burned out, all that stuff.
And I'll take damage.
And you would take all the damage.
Okay.
Yep. Or sorry, you would take 1 damage if it was dealing 5 because you reduced it by 4.
And you can do 5 damage in this game.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It gets pretty nasty pretty quick.
Absolutely. Those power dice, I should say, the power dice, when you look at a lot of your special attacks, and your special attacks will be shuffled into your deck at the beginning of the game. You can't start with them in your hand. You're going to have to earn them through drawing cards or milling your deck by discarding 3 to draw 3. So
they can show up though.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
pretty quickly.
Absolutely. So you can get them in your opening hands. They will usually have effects that are dependent on how many power dice you're rolling with them, which is noted by P with a square around it. So, and if you roll 4 power dice, which is the maximum number of dice you can roll with an action, you can do up to 4 damage sometimes, 5 damage with others. Yeah, it can get pretty nasty. Anyway, so now we're going to see if I want to play any other attacks. And once again, I don't have anything that I can play that can reach you from that far away. And I won't be able to use the initiative to move or anything like that.
Because you've already used it to come down to to move back.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So the next thing we do is so I'm jumping. So I guess the next question naturally is, when do I land?
Yeah. Do you float in the air for the
I land for No, you're going to land at the end of resolving a non-move action. Move actions are going to be blue actions. I didn't play any in this game, but we'll definitely see them in follow-up games because they're used to set up for combos. But if you don't play anything that's blue, as soon as you're done resolving that action, you fall back down to the ground. Standing. Okay. And then you do that by just removing that token and putting it in with the rest of the other tokens.
And then once the turn is over...
Yeah, so now we're at the end of the turn. So blocks have a really good way of being able to conserve dice. So for example, let's go into this. So I use the initiative. So you're going to get the initiative for next turn.
Right.
The next thing that we're going to check is, did anyone play any blocks? You played a block.
I played a block.
So any dice that are currently on your block at this point are going to go back to your energy pool.
Because I didn't have to use them, now I can have
you
them
get to
come
conserve
my active
those.
Pool. Sweet.
So blocks can be really helpful for getting dice. In fact, part of the guessing game in this game is going to be, is my opponent's dice low enough compared to my high active pool that they're probably going to play a block this turn, and then you might play a grab that turn to get through their block and all that stuff. So that's where all the heavier tactics and challenges come in.
And when the turn's done, I don't have to discard the block.
Correct.
Actually,
block always goes back in your hand. So the reason you start the game with a block in your hand is because you can never lose the block. If anything were to ever discard cards from your hand, you can't discard the block. The block always is going to be available to you throughout the game. So after you're done checking for blocks, then you're going to check out on the blast. If a blast has tokens in play, you're still going to keep that blast. You're just going to move it over into what's known as your fighter area, where your fighter card is, to note that blast is still in play and it still will activate on future turns.
So if I was this far away and you had launched a blast that went 3 spaces, that blast would still be coming at me next turn.
Correct. That blast would be there. So first thing we do is you burn out any core dice that are on the blast. Then you put that blast over into your fighter area. Power dice will actually still stay on any cards that are in your fighter area. There's actually a cool fighter in one of the fighter packs named Ranveer who has this ability to keep power dice on his mode cards, and then he can use those power dice on his mode cards for different things.
Which makes him very tough.
Yeah, he essentially, he is a mode heavy character, and it makes him one of the more unique characters. And that will actually be the first fighter pack coming out after the 2 core sets are out. All right, so the blast goes into my fighter area, and its priority is 6. What that means is on future turns, like if we go into the next turn and there's still a blast token on the board, on priority number 6, it will move 3 spaces as noted by the blast value on the card.
And since I know that, it would be smart for me on the next turn to start off with my command of kneeling.
Correct.
So it just went right overhead.
Yep, it would go right overhead. But at the same time, maybe that's what I want you to do.
Right, because then your follow-up attack's going to nail me right in the face.
Exactly. I'm zoning you. All right. So that's pretty much that. So let's go back to since there was no tokens anymore no more tokens on the board.
Right.
That means that my blast is actually getting canceled. All those dice are going to my burnout pool still, and my blast gets canceled. Now I've kind of set myself up for a bad turn next turn. You're going to have 5 dice, and I'm going to have 2 dice.
Well, remember, we still have to go through the beginning. I'll be able to energize.
Oh yeah, you'll
dice.
get those dice
all
too.
My dice in my active
and
pool.
you also got hit, so you got to energize a card when you got hit, or die when you got hit. So
yeah,
there's a lot of strategy and stuff in that. Like, okay, I hit you with a blast. Your block. Not only did you get all those dice back, but you also got an extra die back when you were hit by it. All that kind of stuff. So that's pretty much the game. At that point, we would check again to see if our hand sizes are over 7.
Right.
If they are, we discard down to 7, and we move the turn counter to turn 3. And
boom, we're ready to keep them playing.
Boom, and that's the game. That's how Way of the Fighter is played at its core level.
So now this is just the basics of getting started, and I've only played a few games, and I already feel very comfortable taking on this guy.
Yeah.
I almost beat him last time. So close. But we know some of you want to get into the crunchy details, so we'll have another video coming out very shortly with more details in this how to play style. You're going to see a video where David and I take each other on, and I just beat him into the ground with my devastatingly good looks. I don't know if that's a special power or not. So, and we've got articles on tactics and combos. We have articles about the bios of all the characters. Way of the Fighter is just a cool, fun game. I pumped so many quarters into this type of game in the arcade, and this just feels like I'm playing that game all over again.
Absolutely. Yeah, when building this game, Ben and I were constantly looking at places like Evo and watching those fighting games, because I watch Evo. I've been watching Evo since
Moment 37
and all that stuff. So like I've been part of the fighting game community even for a while. So I think it captures everything that you'd be looking for. It's got your positioning, it's got your reactions, it's got zoning, while also keeping it down to a simple mechanic of 6 tokens that are only there pretty much for Lumi.
Because you can just blast.
And then your position token to note where you are in the game. It captures it all. So,
but there's no denying the more you play it, the better you understand your combos, and the more devastating an opponent you become. That's why we say you have to train hard so you can throw down and travel the way of the fighter.
Yes, got it.
Thanks for watching, folks. Don't forget, check out our Facebook page, our social media. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of these videos about Way of the Fighter coming up. And if you ever have any questions, ask. We're going to be coming out with an FAQ. We're coming out with an errata. And, of course, we've got this quick start PDF up there for you guys as well. We'll give you all those links in the description down below. So have fun, train hard, throw down, and travel the way of the fighter. We're good.